So, how to know when she is a good woman for you to settle down with? This is one of the questions I'm asked most often by men. And the majority of the time I'm working with men who have a certain conflict. I think most of us men live our lives with a certain conflict between, should I be in a relationship and settle down and have something committed and deep, or do I want to be wild and free and able to sow my wild oats, enjoy multiple women, however, in the way that I fancy it? And so how to settle down, or when to settle down, or how even to choose that woman, massive question of debate and dilemma, especially in a dilemma for the men that I know. And so on this video, I'm going to share 7 different perspectives that I found that are critical when understanding this kind of decision and then making this kind of decision. First thing I want to share right off the top of the bat is that I am an advocate for deep, committed, monogamous relationships for men. I think relationship is a great thing. I think it's healthy. It makes us live longer, studies have shown, and it also provides us with such a deep well of inspiration and energy for life, which is quite incredible. And intimate relationship fulfills deep needs that we have on a level that a lot of the time we don't even understand we need fulfilled. So the part of you, or the intuition in you that longs for a relationship and knows that a relationship is a good thing, I absolutely honor that and back it up, provided that the partner that you decide to jump in with is a really, really good choice. Because, of course, on the flip side, nothing can send us into a downward spiral or into a world of pain and turmoil like a bad choice or a destructive relationship. So let's dive in. Point number 1 is that she is as committed to her growth as you are committed to yours. For me, this has been vital, especially when we get into moments of disagreement, conflict and tension, that she's as committed to become more of herself, to transcend herself, to grow and expand just as much as I am. Now, if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you're also very committed to your own growth. And so to have that, or to need that from your partner, is essential. Otherwise, you can be butting your head against the same kind of conflict again and again and again. You're willing to grow, see things from new perspectives, bend over and give quite a lot. And if she's not willing to do that kind of internal inquiry and introspection and bend and give a bit as well to meet you in some of those conflicts, then you can end in a situation that is just very harmful, because you're going over yourself and your own integrity for a partner who doesn't seem to want to budge. Some conflicts and disagreements in relationship are going to feel intractable when you're in them. It's as if, you're probably going to pick a partner who in some respects has deep philosophical views on life that are absolutely counter to yours. And so certainly in the first part of my relationship, we had a couple of these areas, and it took both of us. It wasn't a choice of conceding who was right or who was wrong, or winning in some kind of argument, but both of us needed to develop into a whole new worldview so that we could see the other's point of view and grow into people that were able to be compatible with both worldviews at the same time. So it's essential that she's doing the work necessary for her to grow, and you're doing the work necessary for you to grow. And that way, you just don't stagnate in the same conflicts again and again and again. Now, I think the pace of growth is a very, very important thing. So if you're going at a very fast pace and she wants to go at a very fast pace, that's excellent. If you're going at a slow pace and she wants to go at a very fast pace, or vice versa, that might get a little bit problematic. I would even say that the pace or the speed in which you want to grow is more important than the stage of growth that you're in at the moment, whatever that means. So certainly noticed in a lot of the men I work with, and I also held a lot of these beliefs that I was in some way a bit more evolved, a bit more advanced than my partner, because I had done more workshops, read more books, been involved in my spiritual life for a bit longer. And so I kept this sense of subtle superiority in my mind that, I'd seen more than she had, and I was in a later stage or a higher stage. This kind of thinking actually creates more distance than it does closeness. Surprise, surprise. And what I've noticed in many, many couples is if you have someone, let's say, who's a little bit more advanced in their growth and someone who's maybe a little bit behind, if the speed and the desire and the hunger for it is the same in the person who's newer to doing their work, they can actually grow at a speed that is so fast they'll catch you up much quicker than what you expected and start surpassing you in some really important life areas pretty soon. So look for the commitment and look for the speed of growth rather than the perceived level that you're at. Point 2 is very, very similar to the first point. In fact, it's just an extension really. But with this, I want to say that her commitment to making your relationship a safe home for both of you is the same as your commitment to making the relationship a safe home for the two of you. Now, what does that mean? My view of a really good, worthwhile relationship is that it's a place I can come to where I can let everything go and fully be myself. Whatever I need, whatever state of vulnerability or weakness I find myself in, my relationship is a place I can go and take off any masks of having to seem strong and put together, really show who I am. And so there needs to be a certain level of safety in a relationship in order for it to be worthwhile, nourishing for the two of you. And so one of the greatest moments I had in my intimate relationship was probably maybe 2 or 3 months in. We were sat laying with each other in bed one night, looking into each other's eyes, and the thing that occurred to me to say at that moment was, you're my home. You feel like my home. She said the same words back to me. And upon acknowledging that we are, in a way, both this psychological, emotional home for each other, all of a sudden we have a base. We don't have to go home to our own countries. We don't have to go home to some kind of family house. The home that we've created for ourselves is the space and the intimacy that we have between each other. And so for a good relationship to take place, both parties need to be willing and open to invest in that home equally, one and to the other. If you do too much and she does too little, you're going to be really uncomfortable with your needs not being met, and she's going to probably devalue your needs in some way, and vice versa. Now, I'll say something about the sense of home in relationship. I see a lot of relationships where it really is the man just wants to do his thing. He wants to travel the way he wants to do, he wants to work the way he wants to do, and he wants to see his partner when it's convenient for him. And vice versa. You're talking about a very autonomous woman who's got her own direction in life and is doing her thing. She wants to have a relationship, but the relationship really is taking second place to her own direction in life. So both men and women are doing this. They have this orientation. They get together in... They might think it's a relationship. For me, it doesn't quite feel like a relationship because the individual is always put first. And so when the intimacy or the partnership is no longer convenient for one of those parties, they're going to follow what is their purpose and their autonomous direction before they're going to establish this safe home. So for me, that is one way and style of doing relationship. It's kind of an agreement between two autonomous individuals, but it doesn't fully constitute what in my world is a full relationship. I think the movie La La Land, which won all those Oscars a couple of years back, is a beautiful depiction of that kind of relationship because it tells the story of two people that are really intent in making it in their acting careers, but their ambition and their narcissism take preference over the sense of home that they want to build together. So I think it's a completely different entity where you start prioritizing the needs of the relationship and the safety and the nourishing space between the two of you, before sometimes your own individual needs. And so you'll need to check, is she orienting towards relationship in the same way, and is she willing to do the same kind and type of work as you are in order to create the kind of home that you desire for yourself? Your answer might be very, very different, but if you're more of the autonomous man and you find that she's a woman that really wants to build a safe home for her and you in the relationship, and you're just absolutely wanting to go at your own pace, then you might get very annoyed at her sense of clinginess or something like that, and in the end that's going to cramp your style. So bear this dynamic in mind for point number 2. Okay, point number 3, and that is that between you and her, it is as love gets. So I'll back up and tell a little story about this. Throughout my life, especially my 20s, even early 30s, I was traveling the world looking basically for a 10 out of 10 experience of love and passion. I wanted to meet a gorgeous girl and just stand there in the moment, you know, eyes locked, hearts opened, time pausing, the cosmos being kind of revealed to the two of us, and we would just fall into this blissful image of love. And so I got together with a few women over the years where I never had that experience. We just kind of maybe had a drink or two, hooked up, slowly kind of started to float into something that looked a little bit like a relationship, but I never got the euphoria that I was looking for in the first place. I think most of us know and long for that deep experience of falling in love, where there's no question that this is as love gets. It's beautiful chemistry. So I didn't have that kind of experience for many, many years, but I knew it was possible. And so I did what I needed to do to find the way to have that kind of experience of total, timeless, heart-opened, falling in love, mystical intimacy, I sometimes call this. And I can tell you that actually there's a training, there's a kind of posture and way of being present and feeling another person and opening your own heart that makes that ecstasy of falling in love very, very possible. And so if you're dating or getting together with women and you're not having that full-on rush of falling in love, I highly recommend that you find the way to get the skills and to open yourself up so you can start having that experience. Because to enter into a relationship where you don't hit that kind of 10 out of 10, that was as good as it gets, puts you on precarious ground. I think in all of our relationships, we need a baseline that we can go back to where it's like that is our original euphoria. That is the ecstasy. That is the potential that we have between the two of us. Because when that place of deep, deep heart openness is established, then you can always go back there. Now, in the times in my life where I was a little bit more skeptical or a little bit cynical about women or about love itself, I wouldn't be giving all of myself in love. I would find a woman very attractive, but I'd still be a little bit in my head, perhaps judging or hedging my bets or not fully taking risks or not surrendering. I mean, as men, we get both from society and most conventional dating advice to not be needy, to protect our hearts a little bit, to not show too much interest too soon. So a lot of us men are trained against actually surrendering into that kind of love, into that kind of intimacy with a woman. And it can take quite a lot of training to get out of that habit of guardedness so we can actually feel the ecstasy we're all longing for. Now, when you meet a woman where that level of ecstasy is a 10, that's worth exploring a relationship with. Because once you get to a 10, this is the other side of the debate, once you get to the 10, you're not going to find an 11 or a 12. And I've also found the part in my own mind which is like, wow, I've totally surrendered everything, I've fallen in love here, my heart is open completely and so is hers, this is blissful. few days later, the little voices in my head saying, yeah, but if you just had that, imagine what's over the next hill. You know, imagine what's in the next country, or what woman you can meet in a month's time. It would get even bigger and even better. My sense is, once that heart is open to level 10, okay, it's as love gets. Let's really start exploring this now. Point number 4 is very linked to this. It's possible, once you've had that initial training to learn how to open your heart, get present, and share that ecstasy with women you like, it's very possible to turn yourself into this kind of tantric spiritual god-man, travel around and open many women up to that place. And so the few men that I've known that have this kind of experience, I've had periods in my life where I'm continually having this experience as well. We end up in a situation where it's like, I don't know who to go deep with here, because literally I sit in front of an attractive woman, I speak and share myself fully, and we both fall in love into this timeless space. And I could literally partner up with a dozen different women. There are so many beautiful women out there. How do I know which one to actually choose? And so, a bit more of a practical advice this time is to look at your overall life plans. And if you're the kind of person that has traveled and done enough inner work to get to that place where you can open so much with a woman and bring her to that great space of intimacy, you're probably going to be highly independent. You're probably going to have a sense of where you need to go in life, and so is the woman that you're meeting as well. So ask, what are her life plans? What are your life plans? Do they actually link up? And I found myself totally heartbroken in the past, where I opened up very fully to women who were just on a different trajectory to where I was going. And so even though we shared a fleeting month of just intense beauty together, it was always destined to be a heartbreaking affair, because she was unavailable, I was unavailable to each other, given the deeper commitments that we had going on in our lives. Number 5 might be a little controversial depending on who you are watching this, but my 5th recommendation for my brothers on this is to find a woman who loves and appreciates the feminine as much as you do. So it's pretty normal that a little while into a relationship, a few months, year or so maybe, you will as a man start to find yourself dreaming of, fantasizing a little bit about, dare I say, other women. And so I see this as a very natural facet of what it means to be a man. A man who loves women is going to find himself loving all the different shapes and flavors and forms of other women. And your woman is going to have one shape and form. She's not every woman. She can't, she can't embody every color, every shape, every facet of the feminine. And in men, most masculine men that I know find ourselves admiring or wanting a little bit of something different. A friend of mine and mentor said, I don't want someone new, but I sure as hell want something new. And so where do we get this added spice for a relationship a few years down the line, when the initial impulse of sexual attraction starts to dwindle a little bit, and our day-to-day tasks of managing a household, working on businesses, even having a family together, start to take over a lot of that erotic energy? And so for me, to have a woman that also appreciates the feminine as much as I do means that both of us get to play with us a little bit. I don't want to look outside of my relationship to be with another woman for so many complicated reasons, but it is nice to spice things up. So if my girlfriend is so kind of closed and jealous of or possessive about me and wants to shut out other expressions of the feminine, it's going to be very, very tricky for me to meet the need of variety. If she loves women just as much as I do, she is actually going to be very happy to embody different facets of the feminine. By this I mean role play. By this I mean dancing. By this I mean a little bit of acting. Her willingly dancing with and putting on other kind of energies to bring to the bedroom, basically. And also myself being willing to do the same thing. Myself being willing to have like a range of expression that is also interesting and exciting for her and takes her on the sexual journeys that she wants to go down. So I'm lucky in my relationship that I've got a beautiful girl who is a bomb of energy, and she was also a dancer in a former life and just loves acting and singing. And this means that she's very willing to playfully become and manifest as different shapes and flavors of the feminine to keep that spice going. And this is something, of course, that I'm going to be very happy to play with as the years unfold. But if she was closed off and didn't like other women and wanted me only to like her for her presently manifesting form, we could be in a world of trouble, because she's just one limited expression. And it's fun for all of us when she can let go of her day-to-day self a little bit and become someone else for the sake of play. Now, there are some relationship therapists out there that focus on monogamy, who even say that when it comes to a monogamous relationship, we've got to call ourselves out, even if we're having a sexual fantasy about a different woman or a different kind of woman, because even our fantasy minds are off limits when it comes to intimacy. That's a leakage of energy. I don't know how much of that is true or even possible, but I've certainly found that more sexual energy comes in, more erotic energy comes into our relationship when I tell my girlfriend the kind of other women that I've been thinking about or who I have admiration for, and allowing her to play around with that energy a little bit, because ultimately there's a big part of her that wants to make me happy like I want to make her happy, and this is one great way that we have to continually do this for each other. Point 6, and we're coming down to crunch time. When you know your purpose as a man, things change quite significantly when it comes to choosing whether we want a relationship or not, or choosing which woman to be in a relationship with. Now, a lot of the men that I speak to on this topic, they don't know whether they want a relationship or they want to stay single. They don't know how deeply they want to commit with one particular woman that they're seeing. But at the same time, they also don't yet know what their purpose is. And if they did know what the purpose was, it would make these other decisions become a lot clearer. I will even go out on a limb and say, as a brother, if you don't know yet what you're deeply committed to when it comes to work and your bigger masculine sense of journey is in life, then to a certain degree, you're not fully ready to go all in on a committed monogamous relationship. Okay, you can fall in love and have relationships in the meantime, that's absolutely possible, but the kind of big one, the kind of settling down one, is going to be extremely complicated if you don't know what your purpose is yet, because as soon as you know what your deepest purpose is and what you're most committed to in life, then you'll need to rearrange everything else in your life so that your purpose can happen. And if your woman and the lifestyle of your woman and the kind of relating that you have with her doesn't serve you being at your best and how you need to be to complete and fulfill and move towards your purpose, then you're going to end up in a dilemma of split energies, which is not going to be serving for anybody. Nobody. It's not going to be serving for you or for her or for the people who are to be receiving of your life's work and your great purpose. So once you know the purpose, you can choose relationship formats, you can choose where to live, you can choose the kind of energy of the woman that you need that is going to put you in that state and help you build that lifestyle so you can achieve on this purpose. And you could fall incredibly in love with some great, great women, and they're not going to be the most apt choice for having you become the man that you need to become. Some women are kind of initiatory figures for your sexual life, let's say. Some women might be here to open your heart. It's a smaller subset of women who want to give you the devotion and the nourishment that you need so you can really become the man that you're meant to be. So when you know that purpose, it's going to clear a lot of things up for you. And maybe I'll say, if you don't know what your sense of purpose is yet, it's a really good idea to stay single, to keep exploring what's out there, exploring how different kinds of relationships work and what different women are like and feel like and what intimacy is like. And as your purpose questions get resolved, the relationship one often will follow soon after. Also, as you get to know your purpose, the necessity of relationship makes itself apparent. If I think of great athletes, for example, thinking about the football players that I watch week in and week out, the common advice for a football player is get married young and have a family, because choosing a good woman is going to create a lot of stability from which you can do your best work. And the guys that are still roaming the nightclubs and the bars, dating here and there, they're much more at risk of falling into different traps. And women, as much as we love them, there's a way that if we're not completely clear in our own minds as men, women can be massively distracting to our highest integrity and what's most important. So it's, as always, a careful dance. And then the final thing, the seventh thing that I want to talk about on this video today is the notion of sowing your wild oats. Very, very interesting thing that that many of us men have to deal with, is the part in us that wants to go out there, have all kinds of women, wants to have total abundance of sexual exploration across the world in all different kinds of ways, shapes and forms. Now, not every man seems to have the same impulse. I remember being 23 and one of my best friends from school got married, and I very shyly approached him towards the end of the night in the wedding party and said, "Hey man, I'm a bit shy, a bit embarrassed to ask you this, but this is what I've been wondering." And he turns around to me and says, "Oh, Jordan, you want to know if I banged enough chicks before I bit the bullet and got married?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's not a question for me. I've had my wife and one girlfriend before, and between the two of them, I was totally satisfied." And so a lot of men absolutely don't have this urge to sow their wild oats, but a lot of men do. And so what to do with that? I read question on one of my community forums groups yesterday by a man who has been in love with a great woman for 8 months, but his need to go out there and explore the land of women was so great that he ended up breaking up with who would be a perfect girlfriend for him. And so it lines up a certain inquiry, like, what is this part of us that feels the need to go out there and have many women? Is this a part of us that we should allow to go and do that and run riot? Or is this a part of us that we can understand and work on and maybe soothe and calm down from within, so we can save ourselves from the effort and be ready for a relationship much, much quicker? The answer to that is, I don't really know. I think it's deeply case by case. And so it's essential for each of us to listen to ourselves in that. On the one hand of that equation, I've worked with quite a few men who got married too young, I think, for them, and definitely got married before they had a sense of abundance with women. So they got married from a place of, this works, the family expectations are on me, and, you know, I get to mitigate a lot of my fear about being alone or not being loved by getting married. So they got married very, very early, but also got divorced pretty early as well. And I've helped these men go into the world of women as single men, and then start to claim that sense of power, of confidence, of being able to feel abundance. And it really has settled something deep in their souls to know that they have this fundamental acceptance from women and that they can go anywhere and have choice. after doing that exploration, the hunger for women dies down, and they find themselves more ready to focus once more on their work, purpose, or having something deeper with one woman again. I'm not sure if there is a shortcut to that process, but I definitely know that going about it in a very mindful way and really being willing to explore all facets of our inner world as we travel around and experience this with women, it's certainly a more fruitful way of doing it than the, hell to the wind, devil may care, let's rack up notch on the bedpost count of many hundred or a couple of thousand, as some men do. On the other hand, I've worked with a lot of guys who have been this kind of traveling romantic type, who have bedded lots of women, but essentially are traveling around the world in circles, doing the same thing again and again and again, never quite going deeper. And so after a little while, it's like, okay, so you're sowing your wild oats, but actually the level of enthusiasm and life that comes through these men is not quite that much. Even though they get a lot of women, there's still a little bit of jadedness or cynicism about the whole thing of relationships and love. And so they're doing the same thing perpetually. This is where I often come in and really talk about that ecstasy, that heart opening, having that 10 out of 10 falling in love experience, and then really inviting them to give deeper intimacy and consider that notion of home we talked about a try. I can tell you from personal experience that I did travel lots and have a huge number of experiences with women, and yet the thing about being in a committed monogamous relationship is that even though it can be brutally hard at times, even though it can also be irritating as hell at times, even though she can drive me to distraction even when I'm in the moment of like peace or feeling like a win, like something can bubble up that knocks me off my pedestal and humbles me once more. Being in it has done something much greater for my soul than infinite amounts of being single having conquests was ever able to do. So I'll leave you with that, gentlemen. I hope that's given you at least one or two new perspectives so that you can question this whole thing of how do I know if I'm ready for a relationship, and how do I know if she is the one for me? So you can hopefully answer that question with a bit more clarity. If you like the video and if you would like to see more discussion like this, make sure to hit the subscribe button and with it the bell notification, and you'll get updates every time a new video comes out, which I'm looking to do around every week or so. So hope to see you again soon, and let me know in the comments below what you made of this, what your struggles are, and what you might question a bit more deeply or do differently, having been part of this conversation today. All right, thank you. I'm Jordan, and we'll talk again soon, I hope.